Hello and welcome to my very first episode of the new podcast, Strong, Grounded, Unstoppable. It is with great delight that I introduce Kim from Canada. Kim and I haven't known each other for very long. However, we connected instantly. And I do love a woman who goes, yay, with 3 exclamation marks. I knew then that we were kindred spirits. And we've just got on so well. We have a lot to say. So let's get going with this podcast, which is designed to help women of a certain age stop just coping and start really living. Welcome, Kim. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Susie. It's been an honor to actually be able to do this and get our times, figured out with the UK and Canada and everything that we've had to go through. It's been amazing. It's a great journey to actually do this.
Oh, it is, and it will get better and better because we have had a couple of technical difficulties, shall we say, but we are both fortunate enough to have wonderful men in our lives who are quite good at this. Not to say that we women couldn't figure it out ultimately, but that's for another time.
Yeah,
Kim, you've actually hosted 2 radio shows in your area in Canada. So can you tell me a little bit about those? How did that come about?
Well, we live in Ontario, Canada, and we're in the southern part of Ontario, Canada. So my radio show was on 2 different frequencies, 2 different radio stations, and it hit like all of southwestern Ontario. Which some of it went into the United States border as well, because we do border on Michigan on a couple different angles from where we are. Okay. But I had opened a health food store, was the original thing, in 1993. And through that journey of just always doing the marketing, I had a health minute that I did on the radio back in those days. Like for years, I did, hi, this is Kim Isles. And it was like a health minute thing. And one of the radio broadcasters back then said, Kim, and I mean, this is 1993, but he said, these spots are so good, you should syndicate them. And I was like, I don't even know what syndication means or anything like that. So that started the law of attraction, basically, because just thinking about that all those years, and then so many things in between. So I had the health food store, and I franchised the health food store, and then doing all the radio and stuff that I did do. So when the radio station switched their programming, and we're going to start some Ask the Experts spots for different people to be on, I was the logical choice for their health spot. So I started that in 2005. September of 2005. And then it just grew to doing it like twice a week on that station. And then on a neighboring station, they actually were a competing radio station, but on a neighboring radio station, I had another one. So what I did was I was the interviewer. So I always kind of thought of myself as Oprah. And then I would just interview people about different natural health things, whether it was a book release or whether it was a product or researchers things, but it was all around natural health, that natural health category. And so it just kind of morphed over the years. I only just canceled it in 2022. So I did it up to fairly recently. That was mainly because the government started to really regulate and censor things. So, I mean, things like the word the flu, I mean, there's just too many things. And I had always done live radio. So I was so nervous about what I couldn't say that it just got, what,
so
just going to cancel it.
Sort of gagged then. Okay. I'd love to know, Kim, about your history, your story. I always find it fascinating to hear people's stories and when they go back into childhood, because our childhood has impact on us, whether it was a great childhood or a more unfortunate childhood. And so, and in some respects, you can really tell the difference with people. Although, having done a lot of work from a not such a great childhood, we can live really happy, strong, fulfilled lives. But because if we unpack them. So will you tell us a little bit about your story, about your background, please?
Well, I there's so much, but we can talk about the other shows. But my parents, basically, my mom, from the day I was born, basically, my mom was bipolar. So I grew up with like, mood swings and up and down, and she'd be either depressed or manicky. And back in those days, I was born in 1960. So back in those days, they were still just kind of experimenting on people.
Yeah.
My mom had like shock treatments. I mean, it was ghastly, some of the things I remember growing up. So because of her situation with all of that, and then a bunch of really cool things that my family did, my parents created a tourist camp in the village where we grew up on Lake
Mhm.
Erie. And so I had this amazing family life. But my
Mhm.
dad, with all the campers and people coming and going, my dad became an alcoholic, basically.
Okay.
And so whether it was dealing with my mom, who knows, but whatever. So I had the alcoholism, I had the mom up and down thing. And
Yeah.
so early on, I do believe that I learned some very good, traits for being resilient. Never
Mhm.
knew what mood my mom was in, never knew what mood my dad would be in, never knew if he was drunk or if he wasn't, like just all
Mm.
that up and down chaos, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was, looking back, I had an amazing childhood. I really do, and I did, and I had a lot of amazing family that
Mm.
also I would go live with my cousins for a
Mm.
period of time if my
Mm.
mom was in the hospital.
Mm.
So I had amazing backup support.
I love that,
Yeah,
that in spite of those real issues and challenges with both parents, not just one, you say that you had an amazing childhood, and that positivity is
mhm.
just great, and no blame either, or no
Mhm. Oh
victim
no, yeah.
on that. But what did it do? It encouraged you to go into the world of health and wellness. Is that right?
Yeah, so because of my mom's medical history, like I said, they experimented everything, shock treatments, and you name it. So that took a toll on her over, like, from the time I was born. And so when I was 25, she was 57. She needed a triple bypass, which our family was told, oh, we do lots of these, and it's not a big deal, and none of us were expecting it to be a big deal. But she basically went into cardiac failure on the table,
Oh,
and it was. I've always said it was due to a medical blunder.
mm,
They hadn't looked into. So when you have a bypass, they actually take an artery or vein or whatever from usually the legs, because you have the
okay.
bigger ones down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And because during the surgery, they discovered that my mom had her vein stripped in her legs. And
So it
so
was
when
not
they went
possible.
there, they couldn't get a viable vein. So then
Oh,
the
God.
surgery took longer. She went into cardiac arrest. The surgery was too hard on her, so they weren't even able to do the bypasses. They tried to get a vein from, like, up under the breast, I guess is the next place. But because of all that and just the length of time, so basically my sister and I were in the waiting room, and they came out. We were expecting, oh, your mom, whatever, she's in
Mm,
recovery.
mm,
But no, the lady just came out and blatantly said, we don't think your mom's going to make it through the night. We
mm,
couldn't find a vein. And like, she went into this whole explanation. And again, I was only 25, and I had a little baby at home, and I didn't know anything about this whole procedure at the time. But I just remember, like, dropping to the floor and then
mm.
thinking in my head, like, how does that even happen that you didn't know these things? Like, that would be a
But you
pre-op
place
thing.
your trust in the medical services, and they can't
Yes.
possibly get it right all the time, but for something that is relatively standard, and your mother
Yeah.
was only 57. So
Mhm.
what happened? Did she
So
last the night?
no, well, she did, but she was hooked up to life support pretty much for about a month.
Oh.
So she was in a hospital in London, which is about an hour from us,
Mhm.
and so I had great support for looking after my daughter, so I was able to go there and spend a fair
Mm,
amount of time at the hospital. And
mm,
but she never came out of it. She
no.
did actually speak once, which I thought was, like, I was honored. She just basically said the baby, meaning my daughter, because she was so
Oh,
close to my daughter. My daughter was not even two.
yeah.
So anyway, but she was on life support, and then at one point in time, they um, checked her brain waves or whatever, and they said that there was no brain activity. And so we had to make the decision whether to keep her on life support. And then, so my brother and sister and I, and my dad was still alive, but made the decision that if, not to prolong it.
Mm,
So,
mm.
yeah, so that was the tough part. So she did
Really
pass
tough.
away within not long of taking her off of life support.
Yeah. Bless her. And yes, and you were so young, and as you say, new a baby as well. Um, how did that impact you with in the world of wellness? Did that make you want to do more, to explore more, to learn more?
Absolutely, because honestly, well, my mom kind of dabbled a little bit with vitamins. I mean, it was something that was in my life, but it wasn't a big focus. I mean, I
Mm,
saw trays of pharmaceuticals, on my
mm,
grandparents' table, and my mom
mm,
and dad, like I grew up with that, right? Like literally
mhm,
trays of pharmaceutical drugs.
mm.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
until I had both of my children, so I had my daughter and then I had my son, and when he started, because my daughter never had any health challenges. She didn't even have a cold as a baby. I mean, she was
Mm,
extremely healthy. But my son, when he was about probably 10 months old, started with, the ear infections and things like that that kids get.
mm.
And I couldn't even go there. Like it started to be weekly visits to the doctors, and I just started to feel like I don't want to repeat this. I don't want to do this with my own children.
All the pharmaceutical
So
meds and the yeah.
yeah, I just couldn't do it. So I just basically self-educated. I went and found a book that was the top of the line book at the time. It was called Prescription for Nutritional Healing. It's still in print to this day. And it was written by two medical doctors, but they had all like
Great.
everything you could think of. So every health challenge from A to Z, and every herb and vitamin and mineral. And I
Yeah.
just made up my mind. I was not going to have my son on one more antibiotic. And the
Yeah.
final straw was when my doctor wanted to put him on an asthma puffer. And he said, and I remember it, he said, well, he doesn't have asthma, but let's just try this. And as
Oh,
soon as like
no.
it just hit me like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
start trying
No,
medication with my
drugs.
10
Yeah.
month old son.
Oh.
So anyway, so that just kind of like I started, you know what? I'm going to take care of my own family. And
Mm.
then at the time, I think I told you, but I was at the Elizabeth Arden. I had the Elizabeth Arden line at
Oh,
Sears
yes.
Canada. And I just started reading and reading and reading. And at the time, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like there's so much that I don't know. People
Mm.
need to know this, right? Like
Mhm.
take
Mhm.
some garlic for instead of an antibiotic. Like I was just doing all these things with my own kids, and none of my circle of friends knew this. And so I would be like, on coffee breaks or whatever, educate
Mm.
like my
Mm.
friends,
Mm.
like, did you know? And
Mm.
I don't know, it
Brilliant.
just became a
Mm.
thing. And it was a natural progression. I told you I do remember, and it's all about purpose, because
Yeah.
I do remember the exact moment, the exact customer, um, standing at the Sears counter, and this lady wanted a red lipstick. And I was
Okay.
standing there rolling up testers to show her these different red lipsticks. Like one was
Yes.
too blue, and one was too
Yeah.
pink, and one was too, and all these red lipsticks. And I just literally drifted out of my body. Like I still remember the feeling. She was standing there talking, and I went to, you're worth more than this. I literally knew that my life was worth more than picking
Love it.
out a blue
Mm.
or a pink or a coral red lipstick.
Mm.
And because of what I had already learned. And so my ex-husband at the time, I remember it's just, I got to open a health food store. Like I have
Mm.
to teach people
Love
this.
it.
People need to know this. And so from the moment that I made that decision, and that was early in February of 1993,
Uh-huh.
by the summer, I had a health food store opened.
Excellent.
I
And
just
how did
made up
you
my
do
mind.
that?
Like I just attracted
Yeah,
everything.
so you
Yeah.
made up oh, I love that. So
Yeah.
you made up your mind it was going to happen. You set an intention and a goal,
Yes.
and your passion made it happen, and the universe or the creator or whoever
Yep.
listened.
Yep.
And so the attraction, because I was going to say, how did you fund it? So you must have attracted the funding to make it happen?
Yeah, so back in those days, there were plenty of new business venture loans, right?
Mm,
And so because we both had, thankfully, we had well, he was had a bookkeeping business, so he knew all the ins and outs of that kind of thing. And
mhm,
then we just basically got business startup loan,
mm,
like a small one. But
mm,
because back in 1993, like I just tell people, it was like the wild, wild west. Like the natural health industry was not heard of in our town. And so I was the person. I was like, I just became, oh my gosh, like the health food store. And then again, like I said, radio commercials. And like I just knew how to brand myself. And I learned all those things as well back, which most people weren't doing that part of it.
So did
And
you
so, yeah, we just did it.
yeah, did you encounter resistance though from the medical profession, the local doctors, and because I believe in there is a lot of excellent alternative medicine, but
Mhm.
also complementary medicine. It doesn't have to be either
Absolutely.
or. Um, and so, did you have any resistance to what you were doing? You know, were they calling you a white witch or, anything like that?
Well, secretly, I'm, pretty sure of it. The other thing that happened like early on, and when we first opened up that first store, because we grew like by the time that first lease was done, we doubled our size and then we tripled our size, and we just had tremendous success. And so the other thing that happened was a couple nurses that I knew that did a energy medicine thing. It was called Therapeutic Touch, and it's very big to this day,
Hmm.
but they were just breaking ground so they were the ones kind of being called the white witch because they were working with energy, right?
Well,
And
oh yes,
so,
yes. Mm,
yeah, like that was so here I was, a pioneer, but also had them renting an office in the back of my store. And
mm,
so the
mm,
whole dynamics, but um I really didn't want to open just a vitamin store. I wanted like a whole health thing.
mhm,
And that was
mhm,
my vision for back then,
mm,
was to have food and to have the healing modalities and to
mm.
have water, purified water. So I was the only one that I know of that was doing all of it under the
Mm.
umbrella of a health food store.
Right, so very holistic then.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. And that
Yeah.
must have brought you a lot of pleasure and a lot of contact with people who needed your help. And that's also a very, very lovely thing. I know that, or I've learned that the serotonin levels, the happiness hormone levels in the
Yes.
giver are always greater than the receiver. And
Yeah.
people, we want to be the best that we can be, don't we? We want to help. A lot of people find it very difficult asking for help.
Yes.
And but actually, go ahead, ask for help because it lets that other person be who they want to be, and it makes them feel good, literally, with that hormone.
Yeah. Yeah.
We both talk about the universe bringing us together,
Hmm.
and one thing I want to say is that you've brought me so much information in such a
Oh,
warm
thank
way
you.
already, and so much warmth. But there's a link that you sent me about a guy called David.
David Guillaume.
David Guillaume,
Yeah.
and about Kabbalah. And
Kabbalah.
I
Yep.
found it fascinating.
Yeah.
And again, I'd love you to explain a bit more about that because I will share the link with this podcast.
Awesome. Well, again, I mean, even going back to the energy medicine and all of that and setting intentions and the power of thought but the Kabbalah is basically an energetic way to explain spiritualism. So it doesn't have to be there's no particular religion attached to it. You could be any religion and still look at Kabbalah as to how we get everything from the creator, and whatever you call the creator, whether you call it God, or like, it doesn't matter. So there is something that creates us, like, creates universes, creates the stars, whatever, like there is a creation. And so Kabbalah is just a basic way for people to understand that when we're born, we come into this life, which you can tell by my life. I mean, I came into this life with a purpose. I would have chosen my parents. as a soul, I chose all of it for my life lessons, what I was to learn in my lifetime. And so that's sort of the basis of Kabbalah, is that we come into our life form, a soul, with something that is called your tikkun. And so your tikkun are all of the lessons that, and good and bad, because they all have a purpose, but how we come into this life, and then the creator will present opportunities for us to grow from our lessons or
Yes.
not, right? And
Okay.
so
Yes. To
basically,
grow or not. Yeah.
yes.
And
And
that's
it's
the
a choice.
choice that we make. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you and I
Our
have
soul
really
makes it.
chosen to learn from our lessons and then do
Yeah.
good with it.
Yes.
And
Yes,
again,
that's our
that's
soul's purpose, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
even I talk to people all the time, like, because I did over the years, I wasn't just selling bottles of pills, right? I made my mind up early that wasn't my purpose. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you could buy a bottle of pills anywhere, but
Mm.
all of my customers to this day that have sort of followed me over 30 years, like, I help them with all levels of their health, right?
Mm.
Spiritual and mental, everything. And so that became, when I found out about Kabbalah, though, it just kind of solidified why I'm here. Like, why I
Yeah.
have gone through even the recent things that you and I have gone through, and the recent things that the world has gone through since 2020, and what is our purpose, and so
Mm.
getting in touch with that. And I don't receive any monetary anything from recommending Kabbalah. It's
Mm.
just a way for people. I think we have a lot of lost souls in the world right now. I
Mm.
really do.
Mm. Mm.
And a lot of women that just like us get to our age where our kids are gone and they're grown and doing really, really well. And now what's our, we're back in
Yes.
touch with our purpose.
Who are we and what are we going to do with our third chapter, as
Yeah,
Jane Fonda speaks about it on her
absolutely.
excellent
Absolutely.
TED talk? I think that two things: choice, that we are fortunate to be in a position in this world where we have a choice. There are
Yes,
many who don't in other
absolutely.
countries, and also that we have a voice, and it is our duty, in a way, as I was told by someone, to use it.
Yes.
And so I think it's very powerful what you said about, women of a certain age. We get to
Hmm.
this age, and sometimes, it's hard to think, well, it hasn't been for me, but I know that some women do suffer from, they have empty nest
Hmm.
syndrome, or their husband's gone off with a younger model, or, all these things that can leave them really shocked and floundering. And so
Hmm.
they lose themselves. And
Hmm.
this is something that I know that you and I, in slightly different ways, but we love to help women come back home to themselves.
Hmm.
And that's what I do with my Mastering Mental Toughness, with the books that I've authored about women's stories, and all of these things, just to help. I've always been, as a Piscean, a sort of a nurturer. And when's your birthday, by the way?
I can't even believe you just said that. I'm a Pisces as well. That was one thing we've never discussed.
No, no.
Yes, February
Okay, well,
27th.
there you are, you see,
There.
caring and nurturing.
Yep. Yep.
And so we actually have said we're kind of sisters, which is lovely.
Soul sisters. Absolutely.
Soul
Yes.
sisters, yeah. So
Yeah.
one thing I did notice, particularly because I'm visual, and um, is this lovely chap, David, when I mean, my God, what a life. Fascinating. And
Hmm.
again, it's about building something and then losing it, or it going away, and then building it up, but
Yes.
from a different viewpoint and with different mentality. He had such
Yeah.
beautiful hands, and
He
I
does.
love beautiful hands. I
Yes.
think I just couldn't. I heard what he was saying, and he's not bad looking either. But I just couldn't take
No,
my eyes off
definitely.
his hands. My mother
Yep.
was like that with Nadal, the tennis player. She just loved his arms. But anyway, you also talked about something that a wonderful chap. Is it Les Brown?
Oh, I did. I mentioned Les
Uh,
Brown the first interview that we tried to record.
yeah.
Les Brown isn't a like in definitely in like where we live in North America, but people can look him up. Les is one of the original motivational speakers, personal growth speakers.
Mm.
And I had a cassette tape. Oh my gosh, I would have been in my 30s or maybe early 40s, but I had a cassette tape of his because I've always, I think even, with my mom and everything, like I've always really, really been drawn to personal
Mm.
growth and all those different speakers, all the greats, right? And Les Brown is definitely one of the greats.
Mm.
And so he had a quote, and I should have looked up the exact quote, but anyway, it's a famous one. And he says, if you fall down, make sure you land on your back, because if
Uh-huh.
you can look up, you can get up.
Love it.
And I just
Absolutely
love
love it.
that
Yeah.
because it's so true. Like, and
Mm.
he's very spiritual, but I mean, looking up to the creator, looking up to God, like looking up to your higher power,
Mm.
and just always know that there's an up. Like there's always an up.
There's always an art. I love that. And in fact, it's one thing I suggest, because again, walking in nature is a wonderful way to soothe
Definitely.
yourself. There's a book out there, several, called Earthing, all about earthing and grounding. And I teach this in my course.
Awesome.
But I always say, when you're walking under a tree, look up. It's a whole new world up there. It takes you out of yourself, and it's
Yeah.
magical with the leaves and the movement and the sky and the light. You only need a couple of minutes with that, and it really sort of refreshes your spirit.
Hmm.
Um, do you
But
have?
really dissecting that, like if you look at a tree and when you understand the root structure, how they all reach out to each
Yes.
other, every tree, they reach out to each other.
Yes.
And then the leaves, like the canopy of the trees, even reach out to other trees.
Mhm. Mm.
And how much energy it took to do that, and to
Yeah.
go from when they lose their tree, their leaves for us in the fall or
Yes.
whatever, and then
Yes.
that rebirth over the
Mm.
winter months, they go into
Mm.
a dark
Mm.
phase, they rebirth in the spring. Like
Mm.
we follow that, like our
Mm.
nature is
Mm.
to
Mm.
be that.
Mm.
And so when people do get in touch more with nature, it is a very, well, grounding is very important, but
Mm.
it's a nurturing thing for our
It's
soul.
nurturing, and also I think gratitude is
Yes.
massive. And it is actually one of the most important emotions we can feel if we feel it sincerely and genuinely.
Yes.
And to understand that gratitude for the simple, small things. When I was in a bad place quite some years ago, inside, I wrote down in my little gratitude journal that I was grateful for a warm bed, for hot running water,
Mhm.
clean drinking water, and a flushing loo, because
Yes.
there are so many who don't even have those
Absolutely.
elemental survival things, and
Yeah.
then a whole load above that. So, um, what would be one takeaway around the world of health, and perhaps not necessarily the supplements or whatever, but just one takeaway that you could give our audience that would be a really good thing to remember daily, or to do daily, or to practice?
Well, simply empowerment. And that's why I was really drawn to your course and what you're doing.
Mm.
Anybody that can reach out to other people and empower them to
Mm.
know that they have choices, to know that they can make choices, to know that at the cellular level, you have a power, whatever it is,
Mm.
greater than you, and to
Mm.
get in touch with that. And often I shouldn't say often, I think everybody should have a coach. I truly do, because we
Mm.
can't
Mm.
walk this chaos and this mess alone. We just can't.
Mm.
And
No.
especially as women, because we're so giving, and it's easy to give out all your energy during the
Yes.
day to your
Yes. Yes.
children and to your grandchildren and to your neighbor and whatever, but you
Mm.
can't serve from an empty vessel.
No.
So that's a Kabbalah thing as well, that we need to realize that we are an empty vessel and we have to fill it with all the good stuff.
Keep refilling
And
it with
so
yes. Yeah.
just being
Wonderful. I love.
empowered, like being
Yes.
strong and empowered, and
Yes.
know that the strength comes from outside of you, but it also comes from inside of you.
Oh, very much
So
so.
reaching out to people like what you do, and getting a coach that can help you. I always say, like, out of the box thinkers. They're not in your life, they're looking at what you're in dealing with, right?
Mhm. Mm.
So I do believe that we all do need somebody to help us sort that out,
Yeah.
and it draws on your own strength. You're not borrowing the strength from somebody else, but they're helping to draw it out of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say empowerment,
Yes.
like be
A
empowered.
mentor.
I mean,
I love
yeah.
you said about an empty vessel, and I had a thought there. Rest must not be just a reward. Rest is
No,
something that we need to do in order to replenish our batteries. And there
absolutely.
was something else, but I'm
Absolutely.
having a blonde moment and it's gone. So
That's
thank you for
okay.
that. That is really, really good advice. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kim.
Feel empowered
So
and yep.
yeah, and there's many, many ways in which we can be empowered, or indeed in some areas we can be not empowered, and we need to work on those.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Um, a music choice. I know that your lovely partner, Greg, is a singer-songwriter, and
Well,
you
he's
sent
technically not the singer yet, so but
okay,
definitely
okay, he's
songwriter.
a songwriter, and
Yeah.
you sent me a gorgeous song that it was so happy. It just instantly foot tapping,
Yeah.
uplifting, sort of slightly country but happy country. And so, oh, they've got a white dove flying outside my window. I wonder what that
Well,
means.
that's a good sign.
It
Yeah,
must be.
definitely a
So
good sign.
I will put the link to his album
Yeah,
on this as well.
that would be
And
awesome.
so before we say goodbye for now, and actually I want to say this to you, our lovely audience. Kim and I are ladies of a certain age, and we've had an awful lot of life that we've lived, and we have a lot of stories to tell and share. And so, did I say this before that Kim is going to be a fairly regular guest, because we also could not believe there was one particular element over the last few years that we have shared that was not an easy time. And it was over um, a loved one's estate
Hmm.
and legal challenges. So, not of our
And I kind
asking.
of want like teaser, a teaser alert. But when we discussed that, we did discuss like how many probably more women because we tend to sort of let things go and go over top
Mm,
of us, but a lot of people that have that same challenge with a loved one that they took care of and
mm,
honored and
mm,
cherished, and then when they pass away there can be some pretty crazy things that can happen within the family
crazy.
dynamics.
Yeah.
And again, like having the strength to persevere through that, that was something you and I shared.
Yes.
But yes, definitely, I think we have so many similarities, but that is a huge one,
Mm.
because it
Massive.
can suck the life out of you, like.
Mm, massively. It was so draining. And so
Yeah.
that's something that we want to talk about in the fullness of time, because I am going to write a book from my experiences and what I've learned as a how-to book, how to avoid X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Kim, before we go, how do people find you? Because you have an
Well,
online business now, don't you?
we do. And so because you're in the UK, my main business, wellnesswithkim.ca, they can look it up. They can definitely, see what all I've done, and there's supplements on there, but we only ship within North America for that. But more recently, because Greg and I are both in our 60s and we closed our bricks and mortar store a year ago.
Mm.
But at our age, and again, because everything that we did for others, we just want to help everybody, and we
Mm.
didn't really prepare for our retirement. So
Okay.
we found an amazing digital business that is global. And so they can find us at thrivewithkimandgreg.com. And on there they can check us out, they can reach out,
Mm.
they can
Mm.
basically, because like I always say, because what we ended up finding out is like a lot of people that needed certain therapies or whatever supplements,
Mm.
but if
Mm.
they can't afford those
It's
supplements that are
expensive.
right,
Yeah,
or the therapy or
really.
the whatever, right. And so
Mm.
we always ran up against that for 30 years,
Mm.
people with cancer or something that would say, well, I
Mm.
can't afford that.
Mm.
And so this particular company is aligned with health products, like a health,
Yeah,
I can't go into it, it's too much,
great.
but anyway, it is aligned
Mm.
with a health aspect, but it is an ability for people to create their own degree of what they see wealth
Mm.
being. people
Mm.
can
Mm.
people are creating amazing sources of wealth, but it's
Mm.
an online
Mm.
thing. So
Yeah.
that would be the main thing, because I really
Okay.
do want
Mm.
people our age to be able to realize like they can still create wealth.
To be financially empowered,
Yes.
It's hugely important. And yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Bless your
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
I want to talk about another little teaser about the patches that you do, because
Mhm.
we kind of also share an element of fibromyalgia. Not that we
Mhm.
tend to let it get the better of us. You know,
Mhm.
there are flare-ups, of course, but it certainly doesn't rule our lives or anywhere impact hugely. And I think part of that is mindset. So we can talk about that another time as well.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
we just want to be helpful and
Mhm.
help women, because our audience is women over 50, to become strong, grounded, and unstoppable. So if
Mhm.
that appeals to you, please subscribe and like and share away to your heart's content. And we will look forward to being back with you very soon. Kim, stay on the line with me, darling, please. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story, which, you know, it isn't easy to look back on very, very sad moments, but I guess time is a great healer, and you did something so positive out of that. So bravo you, and thank you.
It's been my honor, Susie, honestly, because it has always been my goal to reach as many people as possible.
Yes, yes.
And you can't help people if you hold all your gifts inside. So
No,
that's why we're
no,
doing what we
no.
do.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll see you again soon. Take care in the
Mhm.
meantime. Bye bye.
Yes. Thank you. Bye bye.